everyone. Welcome to another session of Exploration Tech. My name's Jared Hackford. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance, and really excited to be here with everyone today and our guest, Jackie Hermes. I'm going to pass it to Lori to let her introduce herself and go from there.
Yes, very exciting conversation today. Before we get into it, a little bit about myself and Brilliance. I started Brilliance a little more than 20 years ago. My background's in computer electrical engineering. I ended up through an internship at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I eventually worked as a flight controller for the space shuttle program, which was super fun. I ended up meeting my husband there. He also was in engineering and also worked as a flight controller at NASA. And eventually he went to work for Rockwell Automation, which is what brought us to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He had a job promotion opportunity that brought us to Rockwell's headquarters in Milwaukee. And I was trying to figure out what could be as cool as space. So I decided to start a web development company. My husband managed the largest data warehouse at Rockwell with Rockwell's distributors, and we found we were kind of uniquely equipped as a team to work in the B2B e-commerce space, so helping manufacturers and distributors implement digital commerce. So we've grown as a team. We're a team of 17 today. We made the Inc. 5000 list last year, and that process has been really fun. And along that growth journey, I met Jackie. And Jackie, I was trying to remember when it was exactly, but I'm thinking it was at least 7 years ago. It may have been longer than that. I can't remember exactly. But we've known each other for a while, and I just have an extreme amount of admiration and respect for you and the work that you do. And also I feel like we just have several things in common. I mean, we obviously are different. We both are CEOs of companies in the tech space in Milwaukee. We both value learning about new ways to do business and stretching ourselves. Yeah, we've just crossed paths in many different ways across the years. And one of the things I admire about you and love to learn from what you're doing is all of your success that you've seen through LinkedIn. So really excited about the conversation we're going to have today. But before we get into the conversation itself, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Ooh, what to say? So I do think it was probably about 7 years ago, because it was right at the beginning of me starting my company. And I know when I met you, I really looked up to you and was amazed by your background. And I love the NASA and web development comparison. Like, your company must be really exciting, and that's amazing. I'm so happy for you and all your growth. I'm Jackie Hermes, the CEO of Accelity. We help B2B SaaS companies get to revenue and grow faster. So we're typically working with sometimes funded pre-revenue B2B SaaS companies all the way up to 30, 40 million, depends what their marketing department looks like. And it's a really fun space to be in because you get to move really fast. Like, I started my career at G, right? And it's a big company. They do amazing things, but it moves slow, right? And so the difference between that and the impact that we get to make at Accelity day to day with our clients is crazy.
I love that. A few housekeeping items before we jump into the topic at hand. If you're not connected and following Jackie and Accelity, highly recommend you guys do it. They produce so much great content, and it's very valuable. So go ahead and do that. I'd also say we'd love to have you follow Brilliance or Lori and myself. So anyhow, let's jump into the topic at hand.
So first off, Jackie, I'd love for you to tell us about what results you've seen in your business from LinkedIn.
Yeah, we actually just produced a video on this because I talk a lot about the day-to-day, right? And the mindset and the challenges and the things you have to do when you're growing a business, but I don't ever really tell the whole story. And I think that LinkedIn is a big contributor to our growth in the past few years. The timing of us going from 7 employees to with full-time and part-time, we have over 20 today, coincides exactly with my growth path on LinkedIn. And that's no, coincidence. It's interesting because I think a lot of people wonder about my strategy on LinkedIn, and because I'm not talking about B2B SaaS, I'm not talking specifically about marketing strategy or anything like that. I'm really trying to relate to people more on their journey of building a company. But with that, we have generated tons of leads from LinkedIn, and we were able to expand from being mostly a Midwest company to about 50% Midwest and 50% all over the US, which is pretty cool.
So we are continuing to grow and learn and how we can be leveraging LinkedIn to support our organization. And one of the things that I'm constantly thinking through is how should we be following up with these people who engage with our content on LinkedIn? Can you speak to that a little bit, Jackie, and what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say our process is a little bit more of a slow sell. So I think if you're gonna get started on LinkedIn, you have to be willing to build a foundation and put in the legwork up front to be able to, it's not just a system of going and hitting people up constantly and trying to sell to them, because we all get those messages. Frankly, now when I connect with someone and then they start selling to me right away, I just go and remove them right away, because it's like, I don't have the time, and nor do any of us, to respond to all of those messages. So we are more adding our prospects into my network, connecting with them with valuable messages about why they might want to connect with us. And then we don't really go and specifically sell them anything, at least not for a while. We're interacting on their content. We're hoping that they see my content, and kind of making it seem a little bit more serendipitous, if you will, than going and hitting them up. Now, if we talk to Mikey, my head of sales, he would probably talk to you about, the follow-up that he does do, where he's specifically tagging prospects in certain posts or things like that. And then when he's ready to really start selling to these people, when they've shown some kind of interest or buying intent, then it's all holds off, and he's hitting them up via LinkedIn, text message. He recently started texting them selfie videos where he's like taking a video of himself in like the grocery store, like, hey, I was thinking about you. And I'm like, okay, so it seems creepy, but it's working.
Yeah. Well, what I love about what you're describing is that, it's really developing a relationship with people in a way that is genuine. And I think in the work that we do in digital commerce, and I believe for you too, and in many, I think, organizations in the B2B space, there's a lot of trust building that has to happen in order to eventually earn that relationship. And so to me, that's what that really sounds like. And also why it fails when those folks reach out to us and then, immediately hit us up with, want to get on a call and hear about my great thing that is going to make you money. It's like, no, I get plenty of those messages, not interested. And so yeah, I just love your focus on creating value for people. We've seen you encouraging your team to develop their own brand on LinkedIn and post their own content. And I'm curious, why you've decided to prioritize that and what work you've needed to do to support your team in becoming those content creators on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we actually have a competition going until the end of March, and a leaderboard running where everyone's logging their interaction, and we're trying to see. One of my team members opened a LinkedIn account specifically to compete in this, and I think she's in 4th place right now, which is kind of incredible, right? So it's kind of anyone's game, which is fun. But the reason we're doing it is because, it's great when people come to the company knowing me, right? But I'm not the one doing the work anymore, which is fantastic that we've gotten to that point. But I want them to know the whole team. I want them to trust the company and the way that I'm growing it and my methodology, but I also want them to know Ellery, their potential account manager, or Jenny, their potential strategic advisor. And that's why I'm having them do that. It's been interesting because a lot of them post about their side hustles and the work that they do on the side. Like Emily, our developer, runs a little development company on the side where she doesn't work with companies in our target market, but when someone that's a B2C company hits me up, I'm like, hey, do you want a referral? Go ahead and do it. I think some companies would maybe draw the line there, but I don't really care. I think honestly it makes them even more dedicated to the company and helping grow because they feel supported.
Yeah. Yeah, that's operating out of abundance, right? And knowing that you have a place that you focus. Yeah, I love it. That's great.
Brilliant sales team, if you're listening, there is a leaderboard coming in the near future. I love that. Love it. Thanks, Jackie. You had mentioned, your niche being the B2B SaaS space. How did you arrive at that focus, and can you speak to the importance of narrowing your target?
Yeah, I don't know that the arrival was anything very scientific. That's what I was working in when I started the company. And I was working at a company called Zywave, which I think a lot of people in Milwaukee are probably very familiar with. And they were acquired by private equity. And part of being acquired by private equity sometimes is bringing in talent that's, essentially lower paid to run departments. So I was, I think, 25 years old running their marketing department. Super cool opportunity for me, but I just had to kind of like figure everything out. I had not a clue really what I was doing. And then once I got in the swing of it, I was talking to other B2B SaaS companies and startups and realizing that they didn't have access to anything close to what an $80 million company had. It's hard to know how to set a foundation when you don't have tons of resources. So I saw an opportunity and just kind of took the leap. And my husband actually recently took that same leap, but it's funny watching him because it's such a different journey, because he's been a CFO twice, and he has a network. And so taking the leap when you're in your 20s versus, taking the leap when you already have an established network, completely different, crazy story. So I'm really excited for him. That's kind of off track, though. What was the second part of that question?
No, that was great.
Well, I have a follow-up question. So it's about your niche, right? And how you focused on it. So you were saying that made sense for you to enter into that. I'm curious about, so you have this niche, but you don't create content just specifically to that. And so can you talk about like why that is more?
Yeah, I mean, I want a brand that goes beyond B2B SaaS, right? I want to be able to relate to those that are growing their SaaS companies, but also something we're working on right now is a marketing course that's going to be available to people that are outside of SaaS. And now the brand can be used for that. And so I didn't want to specifically focus in on that. And plus, I mean, there are a million people talking about like how to hack your marketing. And to me, it's more about, like the overall growth strategy of a company. And there are so many things that go into it. Like it's your marketing, but it's also your sales. It's also how you hire, fire. It's your own mindset and how you take care of yourself. So I just wanted to take a different approach, I guess. But we're still pretty specific about how we get those B2B SaaS buyers into my network, where we work in, like 4 or 5 specific industries, and we have lists of companies that we want to work with in those industries and who we think the buyers are that we're reaching out to, connecting with, commenting on their content and stuff like that. So it's kind of a different approach.
Clearly, with LinkedIn, having a quality profile is important. You want to have that intrigue in people. You want people to engage and understand who you are. Outside of having a quality profile, are there other types of content that you would say are important to building a LinkedIn strategy?
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed lately is that comments are now content, which is interesting, but I'll see people that leave really thoughtful comments and they get more interaction than some of the content itself. And I think it's a really good way to connect with people and gain followers right now. I mean, it's partially about what you put out, but then it's mostly about what you do outside of publishing content. So are you spending time really building relationships? I mean, I think the only friends I've really made during COVID have been people on LinkedIn, which is actually pretty cool. Like, you don't go on LinkedIn thinking like, I'm here to make friends, but I think if you go in with a genuine interest in meeting people and helping people and networking, it's definitely possible.
Also related to content, so you use video frequently. I believe it's fair to assume that video drives opportunity for you, and you've seen value in that. I'm curious, outside of video, like are other types of content that you think are important to be leveraging on LinkedIn?
It ebbs and flows what really works well on the platform. And then it works for different people too. So someone I talked to this week, Justin Welsh, who I look up to immensely, he put out a course a few months ago that really inspired me to, like get off this idea I've been sitting on and actually start working on it. He does all text. I don't know that I've ever seen him put up a video, but he gets like 80, 100,000 views on a 3-sentence text post. I know, honestly, he said that to me and I was like, you what? Like, that's free. And then, for me, video has worked the best. So I think it definitely varies. And then I see other people doing cool things like using documents in certain ways or doing slideshows. Those are things I haven't really dabbled in, but we'll see. I mean, I've got plenty of time to keep creating.
I've seen you do a variety of different kinds of videos. Like you'll have things that are very business focused and other things that involve guests or things that are more personal or bloopers. How do you make up that mix? Do you have recommendations of like how you pull together that variety?
Yeah, I'm usually trying to post at least 3 videos a week. I like to feature a member of my team at least once every 2 to 3 weeks. I think I've actually gotten through interviewing most of them now, so we'll start that over and see what's changed in the last year with many of them. And a lot of the comedy is more when I feel inspired to do it. You know, like I did a lot of stuff about working at home with the kids. You know, and if I have an idea, I just will pick up my phone and be like, hey kids, do you want to shoot a video with me? And they're like, are we going to be famous? Are we going to? Well, not quite, but it's fun to get them involved too. One thing that's been working really well is just super short content where you're making a strong statement and then you're giving more context in the comments and in the like copy. So I don't know, we're just kind of always experimenting. Abby on my team, who does all of my video editing, she'll come to me and be like, hey, I've noticed this trend on Instagram, or I haven't seen this on LinkedIn yet. We should try this. So she's really great about like bringing my attention to that. She's a very, very creative thinker.
That is really great. What I love about what you're describing is that I can tell you've spent a lot of time like testing and measuring different things, trying new things, seeing what works. Yeah, I love it. And I know for us, for a long time, we saw what you were doing and maybe tried a few things, but also were just intimidated, felt like we didn't necessarily have it all together in terms of how to do it. And last year, we just started deciding to start creating some videos, even though it wasn't always good. And you know what? It still is valuable. Like it's been valuable for us. And so I guess for me, a lesson learned for myself is to like stop worrying about how good it is and just start trying it, right? Because I mean, always there's a desire to get better, but just to kind of go for it and not get in your own way about how great it's going to be.
I think you know Quentin Allums, who was in our same building. He's the one that got me started, and he tells the story about how he got me to shoot my first video and then he never published it because it was terrible, apparently. I remember I was standing outside a coffee shop and I was like, do we have to shoot this in public? Like, are people going to see me doing this? And I feel very weird. I don't know what to do with my hands. So, I mean, and I still feel like that, especially in COVID. I'm like, okay, do I want to shoot a video today? Do I feel like I have anything to say? Am I going to leave my house today? I don't know. So I really think everyone feels like that. Like I still feel some resistance in creating.
Absolutely. I think part of it too for us was we're such a nerdy group that there was always this, are people really going to want to hear what we have to say as nerds? But yeah, getting past that was a big hurdle. I'm glad we did though.
Yes, for sure.
It's too funny. And I guarantee there are a lot of people that relate to feeling like that. And
yeah.
We had quite a few questions coming from registrants around the planning of content and how you go about supporting that plan and executing on a plan. Can you touch on that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So my executive assistant, Eden, helps me with all of the just keeping a schedule. She's so organized. She keeps everything like, okay, here's the plan for the week. Here are the days and the times we're going to post. I'm producing the content, but she's really helping me stay organized. I think that if I didn't have someone holding me accountable, I don't know if I would still be doing this right now, to be honest, especially a year ago when, COVID and everything happened. I was very unmotivated to be shooting content or doing anything like that. So she definitely helps. I mean, I think she has the schedule planned out to like April right now, which is further than I have ever planned pretty much anything. So yeah, that's definitely helpful. And then, I mean, when I shoot content, I think last Thursday I shot like 10 videos because it's like, okay, if I feel inspired and I have something to say, I just keep going. You don't have to pick up the camera and shoot every single day. I think that is a misconception.
You referenced this a little bit, but how do you grow that audience and cultivate the people that you want to talk to in it?
Yeah. So we work with B2B SaaS companies in a few different industries. So insurance, InsurTech is a big one that we work in. Healthcare technology is a big one that we work in. And we will identify, okay, here are companies that we want to work with, and here are the people based on the structure we've built, like our ideal client profile and our buyer personas and our target market. Here are the people that we think would be involved in this decision. And, here is their LinkedIn profile. Let's try to connect with them. Let's try to open up a conversation with them, or at least, if they're posting content, interacting with them. Like, we're trying to make ourselves known to them. But then a lot of it is organic too. I think if you are out interacting with people on LinkedIn, having conversations, collaborating with other people on LinkedIn is huge. So I try to do that quite a bit as well. You'll grow organically too. LinkedIn is cool because it's still a platform that you can grow organically. A lot of platforms, you cannot do that anymore. And I suspect that this kind of like golden era of LinkedIn will come to an end at some point too.
Yeah. So definitely get started. One of the other things, Jackie, that I think you and I hold in common is that as we think about like business growth, that we think about processes and systems. I'm curious, like if you can talk a little bit about your proven process at Accelity, or what benefit you see to like having a process in your work.
We have honestly so many processes that now we are in the process of scaling them back, which is kind of funny. I think we spent a lot of the beginning years of the company setting a foundation so that the company could grow. I'm thankful we survived that, because a lot of times when you're reinvesting that much money, there's just not much to go around, especially we're a bootstrap service company. Service companies, historically, margins are not huge, as you know. But I have always felt that it was really important to kind of have all of our ducks in a row. So processes around not only sales and marketing, but around the way that we hire and the way that we train people and stuff like that. So Jenny on my team is the process queen. I'm very good about identifying, like, oh, hey, here's some best practices that I've seen, or here's something I think we need to put in place. And she puts it all like really into motion. So I'm very grateful to have her on the team.
Yeah. So you generate leads via LinkedIn or however, like having good processes in place to have a plan as to what to do next and to have consistency in your service is so important. And also to your point around, like, you may not be the person on your team who is great at like actually building out the process, and yet just having that mindset organizationally to be able to identify them and prioritize getting them down and improving them is really important.
Yeah, I mean, growing a business, I think a lot of people, especially founders, think they can do everything and they don't want to hire people to do, X, Y, Z. But I think one of the biggest things you have to do is know what you suck at and find people to do those things, right? Like, I am in the EOS system, I'm the V. Like, I have the ideas, but I am not the person that's going to put them all into motion and do all of the legwork. Now that I know that about myself, stuff moves a heck of a lot faster because I'm not trying to wear a hat that doesn't fit me, right? So that has been some of the most successful entrepreneurs I've seen are those that really understand what they're good at and what they're bad at, and they hire for the things that they're not good
at. As I was digging around the Accelity website, I stumbled upon your LinkedIn profile assessment. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's basically a tool you can submit your profile and we will just give you some tips on how to improve it to either better communicate what you do, your story. I think a lot of people are still taking their resume and just pasting it in the about section. That's a no-no. And I mean, basically, it's a tool for us to gather, like leads not necessarily, but opt-ins into our email list. The gated content movement is going by the wayside now, and so we kind of have to look at other ways to get people opted in. So that's one of them.
I like it. We had a ton of questions come in from the audience. We don't have a ton of time left, but I'm going to hit you with a few here. So one, Jackie, that came through was about the balance of building your business brand and your personal brand. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the personal brand was born out of the business as a tool to grow the business, actually. And it's something that I honestly really didn't want to do. I'm grateful that I did, but it honestly, especially when you're getting started, I think a personal brand, if you can talk yourself into putting yourself out there, is even more effective than a company brand in a lot of ways, because it's a person, right? It's like someone you get to know and like, versus a company brand. I think it takes a lot more to spark that emotion out of a company message. So that's the way we've approached it.
Love it. All right, so here's another. Do you have any suggestions? It's kind of funny just because I'm thinking of earlier conversation when you were referencing being at the big organization. So this kind of ties to that. But do you have any suggestions for streamlining content workflow for a large company, but only a 1 to 2 person content team?
Well, that was pretty much my life in corporate, where there was a 2-person marketing team and there were lots of ideas, and it can move really slow because there are so many stakeholders that you want involved. My advice is to remove as many people from the process as humanly possible, because if you can, I mean, it's important to do things like getting advice from subject matter experts, getting their opinion, but like interview them for 10 minutes, get on a call with them and review a piece of content with them and get their sign off in that 15 to 20 minutes. Otherwise, inboxes are just where everything for review kind of goes to die, right? And it takes forever. You sit on it, take out stakeholders, interview and do stuff live as much as humanly possible.
Well, we are at time. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Well, I just want to encourage our audience to follow, connect with Jackie and Accelity. I think there's so much to learn just from watching what you do. My personal opinion. I'm just thrilled that you joined us today and shared your insights with us.
Yes, you inspire me too. So keep going, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Jackie, especially knowing that you're booked out till April. Super excited to have you here today. And as Lori mentioned, connect with Accelity and Jackie and her team. They offer a lot of great content. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day.